What's up, y'all? You know what time it is. It's about to be that time.
Damn, son, where'd you find this?
Sorry about that, Luffy. But if we're gonna make it to the final island, I've gotta turn up the heat. Yeah, I'm gonna be the king of hell! I'll tell you what. Is that okay with you, Pirate King?
Savage.
And we're back. One Piece 1036 is out. Something feels a little different, probably because it's 2022. Yeah, it's a new year, all right? So inevitably everybody, when you start filling out paperwork, you'll be scratching out the ones and putting a 2. Although realistically, it's all 2s. So maybe this year it'll be easier. Huge sidebar, right? We're here to talk about One Piece. Okay, this is the first official chapter of the year. Okay, this is typically a rough hurdle to get past every year. December, the end of December, the beginning of January. It's just a very long break. After the next chapter, I think we'll be back in full swing. But to offset these problems, Oda usually drops some certified heat to bookend the previous year and the beginning of another. Especially considering that New Year's Day is Oda's birthday, right? So he usually wants to kick things off right. Unfortunately, I wouldn't say that this chapter is going to end up on any top 10 lists for 2022. It's a serviceable chapter. It's a setup chapter. More than anything, I would call it a suitcase chapter, all right? Because there's a whole lot of packing going on, all right? We got King packed up. We've got Zoro packed up. We've got Sanji packed up. We've got Drake packed up. Whew, there's a whole lot of packing going on. And to add to that pack list, we have the 6th number and Kinemon and Kiku, albeit they have been packed up for a while. This is a setup chapter, people, okay? We've seen these time and again. This didn't end with any sort of magical cliffhanger. Oda really used it to just catch us up to speed. All right, there's even a middle part that is a narration for not only casuals, but for a lot of hardcore readers as well, to remind all of us all of the things that are going on, the geography of everything, where Kazenbo is in relation to everybody. Yamato is obviously closing in on that. Yamato has ice powers, so I think that that's where things are going to, get a little spicy, a little dicey, maybe even a little icy. So I said that this chapter would likely be vignettes of catching everything up to speed. That's what felt right from a story perspective. That's what we got.
Another one.
I see this trend continuing in 1037, showing us the other side of things and catching us up on people that we haven't seen yet. So this is Nami and Tama, what's going on with them. Where's Jinbei been, right? That's definitely something I want to see in 1037. Frankie probably reaching the live floor, maybe an interaction with Chopper, but more than anything, Robin and Brooke. Now, the most interesting stuff in this chapter for me, personally, is all this business with CP0. Granted, the best stuff is the majesty that is Izo, all right? And the superb display of masculinity, pulling a full Denjiro, all right? Just throwing it off, showing the back like Denjiro did to Sasuke last year. Well, we're in 2022 now, so back in 2020. Drake is packed up. I mean, this was to be expected, all right? If CP0 is to be the level of threat that I expect them to be, which is that I believe that they're at the top rung of the Super Saga, and that we will be going up against CP0 at some point because they are the direct route to the Celestial Dragons in the first place, and they're also a connection to Vegapunk as well. So they're not just here to be here. They're not here for fluff. We will have altercations with these individuals. And to show us their strength, Oda decided to use Drake for that. All right, which of course confirmed sword versus shield. And very happy about that. So shout out to my guy Monocle Man, aka Dripper Scarfino, right? Because Oda hasn't given him a name, so I've got to give him a name, right? And he's got a scarf, big dripper, full cocaina drip. Like, I mean, this guy's saucy.
Certified drip.
Certified. Then his less certified friend over here, we'll call him Schoolboy Collins. He seems to be the one that they're talking to, all right? Because if you go back to his scene, he's talking about how all of the All-Stars are defeated now. Then Big Dripper over here is getting relayed the information that all of the All-Stars have been defeated. So this guy receives the information, tells it to him. Now, it would be interesting if the person that they were talking to was someone different, right? I truly believe the Vegapunk is on those ships. Now, it's very clearly set up that Schoolboy Collins over here with the bucket hat is he's the guy that's talking to them. But it wouldn't surprise me if Vegapunk was in communication with CP0 just based off of that scene with Orochi in Act 2 of Wano when we were introduced to Orochi, right? Because he tells Cypher Pole that the next time they come around, he wants them to have Vegapunk with him. To which Dripper over here is shook, right? I can't just produce Vegapunk. Like, I can't just manifest him out of thin air. But I mean, that might end up happening, right? Because Orochi bit the hand that was feeding him. Whew, now we got some government ships heading to Wano to annex it, right? Like, hey, man, getting a little too big for your britches, flying a little close to the sun there, buddy pal. So we're just going to take over your land and your factories, etc. And X out the middleman. Now, Schoolboy Collins over here wants them to abandon their mission of capturing Nico Robin and just get out of the castle. But I'm under the impression that Dripper calls the shots. So I don't know if that's going to happen. I want to see Dripper and we'll call the other guy Machu, all right? Because he's wearing a mask and it looks like Kiss Face. Choo choo. Yeah, deep cuts. Anyway, I've now named all of our unknown CP0 guys, except for the tall guy that we saw in Dressrosa and at the Reverie. But I'm not going to name him until he shows back up into the story. If they get out of here, that does sort of line up with things anyway. If we're to fight them later on, this was just a tease and a setup. Everything that Oda really needed to do is in this chapter. Defeating Drake lets us know exactly how much of a threat these guys are to begin with. And I still believe that these guys are all kids that survived the Big Mom birthday massacre. That would just be a really interesting twist there, especially since some of these kids and their masks look like some of those kids from the Mother Carmel flashback, all right? Or maybe he's Spandine, and Spandine has been, powerful this whole time. Doubt it. Now, since Bucket Boy, Schoolboy, wants to get out of the castle, he may jump down to the level that they're at and potentially run into Apu. And this is the guy that I wanted Apu to fight in the first place because they're both long arms, so that would be interesting. But it's also a reason why I wanted this guy to run into Brook, because Brook has an established issue with long arms. So Beppo was in the chapter. Moving on.
Savage.
Usopp has a great moment in this chapter. He starts yelling at Kinemon and Kiku about their desire for death, right? It's the Bushido Code. And this is like a twofold title, which Normally when Oda makes a title, it usually applies to more than one thing in the chapter. One specific thing, but then, you can sort of place it in other areas as well. One other area would be Zoro, right? Who, according to Vivi, is Mr. Bushido, right? And has always been. And Zoro has sufficiently, succinctly packed up King. We get a little bit of a King flashback with Kaido, which is very interesting. King thought that Kaido was Joy Boy, right? And I do believe that Rocks believed himself to be Joy Boy. And that's how Kaido would have gotten the idea of all of that. I believe that most, if not all, members of Rocks have an idea of elements of the Void history. So for more on that, you can check out the Rocks theory that's on the channel. I'm not going to take up too much time here with that. Essentially, Kinemon and Kiku, or at least Kiku in this situation, just seems like they just want to die. Like they don't even care about getting healed. They don't care about what the outcome is as long as they sufficiently played their part. And I think that that's where Usopp is sort of coming from in this scene, where he's just like, you need to get to the end. You didn't come here to die. Which echoes Brook and Whole Cake. Like, what fool runs into a situation expecting to die? Well, these scabbards did. When they're on the boat on the way to Onigashima, there several of them. Ashura Doji, Inuarashi, Kiku, Kinemon are all talking about death and how, this is a one-way trip for them.
One last ride.
Usopp's speech here almost makes it worth Kinemon and Kiku being alive. Almost. But I also, a big shout out to Izo. We talked about him a little earlier, but, when he comes in and he says, well said to Usopp, right? That goes to show the teachings that Izo got from being on Whitebeard's ship, where Whitebeard cherished life. Where's my boy Marco at? All right, he was carrying Izo. They were saying in the stream that he just dropped Izo off like a kid at school, which, that's kind of what happened. I think the obvious answer would be that Marco is going to swoop down and then heal Kiku and Kinemon, right? But that almost seems too obvious. In one of the previous chapters when we saw Marco first flying with Izo, they were talking about Kazenbo. So I think that it's very possible that Oda uses Marco to stop Kazenbo, that he could be the only person who can stop it. We could see a valiant effort from Yamato, but they just end up not being able to do it right at the last moment when it's going to reach all of the bombs and all of this stuff. Marco swoops in, flies inside of Kazenbo, sacrifices himself, and Kazenbo falls, dissipates, right? But then from the ashes, a phoenix rises. And then we get that whole mythology coming full circle with Marco, which I've been waiting for something like that to happen. And I think that Kazenbo is probably the best opportunity to do that. So that's my going theory on that. So we caught up with Raizo and Fukurokuju, who are sitting paralyzed, surrounded by flames. Now this is interesting because if you go back to, I believe it's chapter 971, somewhere around there, the boiling pot incident, Raizo is one of the people who is complaining about the flames. So this is a little bit of growth for him when he says that these flames are mild, because he's seen hotter. He's grown. He's evolved. So we go back to Hiyori and Orochi for a minute. Orochi wants her to play a song. Now, naturally, this would make sense if it is the song that Odin used to request. And, could we see Enma starting to, hockey up or react to this song again, right? Are we going to get some sort of confirmation that souls are inside of swords, and that's what curses them as well, so that there is actually a little piece of Odin inside Enma? It just seemed a little too convenient that as Hiyori was playing the shamisen, Enma started to act up in Zoro's hand, right? Enma is Hiyori's sword, probably her birth sword. There's a link, there's a tie that just cannot be severed. You know, that's why Zoro is having such a hard time. He has to put this sword in its place. It was Odin's, then it was Hiyori's. Now it's got a new master. Right? I mean, it's very possible that Zoro leaves Wano without Enma. You know, just it serves its purpose, and then he leaves with either the Need Eye or takes Shusui back because it was actually gifted to him. But we'll see. We'll see. I just need Hiyori to, once again, pull out a sword and take out Orochi. Secret swordswoman. Let's go. The ending scene was cute. Kaido seems to be getting charmed by Luffy, as most people do in this One Piece world. Seems a little out of place for Kaido, but then at the same time, you know, he seems very much like a Hisoka type character. As long as you're giving him a good fight, he's happy. It's more so how much Luffy's enjoying it as well. That's sort of strange. You know, considering that Luffy does know the atrocities that this man has committed. So Luffy's kind of giving me Goku vibes right now, and I don't want that. Let's stay on task, Luffy. I need you to get angry, because that's when you do your best work, buddy. All right? Flame on. But I think that's going to finish things up today. I want to thank our new member, Brian Placencia, and Kip/Seaway for rejoining, Michael Lacoste for rejoining, Brian for joining. And thank you to everybody that supports the channel. It goes a long way, and you know, we definitely appreciate it here, guys. And I'm looking forward to a great new year. I think that the next chapter is going to be a schmanger. This chapter was, you know, it was good. But the next chapter, I just feel a schmanger coming. I feel it. I just really want one. Please, Oda, schmang us.
I've been swimming deep, deep. Savage.